Okay, so let's do grade 5, unit 8. We're going to start with lessons 2 to 5. Lesson 1 very rarely has a quick practice, so you can do any quick practices that need review. But as we start with lesson 2 through 5, we're reviewing our measurements. So the first slide here is showing us that we want students just to be reminded about how large these various measurements are. So show me a meter. Students would show you a meter. You can delete this red box. Class holds their hand about a meter apart, and then the teacher shows them. So now the teacher or the student leader shows their hand. Yes, a meter is, and the student or leader or the teacher would show a meter is very long and longer than a yard, but the teacher should be showing that with their hands and or a meter stick if you have one in classroom. Now show me a decimeter, and students should show a decimeter is about those 10 centimeters. Class holds their hands apart about a decimeter. The student leader or the teacher does that. Yes, a decimeter is the same as 10 centimeters. Now, I usually say a decimeter is like a baby brother's shoe. And so we'll put our hands and show about how big a baby brother's shoe is, which is the same as 10 centimeters. So you can review this however you want, but you're trying to get into a rhythm of show me a decimeter. Yes, a decimeter is class 10 centimeters. Show me a centimeter. Okay, class shows you their centimeter, about 1 centimeter. They can show their fingers about that far. They can show you about the width of their pinky finger. So anything we can do to help them visualize or create benchmarks around how big or long those measurements are is going to help them internalize them. Okay, so you'll do the same thing for a millimeter. A millimeter is like the length of our pencil lead. Okay, but they can show you with their fingers, and then you verify it, or the student leader verifies it. Now show me a kilometer. Obviously we can't show a kilometer, but they could pretend that they're running in place. Okay, so a kilometer is like from here, and come up with something that is nearby your school or your classroom that is about a kilometer away. So a kilometer is like here, if I were to run from here to where. Okay, and then you can verify that as well. So now that we've solidified or reviewed what those measurements are, we're going to work on our conversions. So we're going to say each 1 millimeter equals how many centimeters? Class, and the class should say each 1 millimeter equals, and we can erase this as soon as they say it, 1/10 centimeter. So we would read 1/10 here. So again, don't show them the answer until they've said that. And now we can reread that. 1/10 centimeter is equivalent to 1 millimeter. So boys and girls, if we have 500 millimeters and I need to convert that to centimeters, am I going from the small to the large or from large to small? Class, and they should say, I'm going from small to large. When I go from small to large, boys and girls, would I multiply or would I divide? And the class would say, I would divide. Boys and girls, how many centimeters? Class, and they would say 50. Say the equation, 500 divided by 10 equals 50. Boys and girls, could we also use multiplication? Yes, boys and girls, 500 multiplied by 1/10, class, 50. Okay, so the answer would be the same. So you have those frames down here for you if you forget. And then of course we can say, now does this make sense? And students should say, yes, it makes sense, because if we have more millimeters, that's because these are a smaller unit than the centimeters. The smaller the unit, the more we need. And we can just repeat that back and over again. The smaller the unit, the more we need. Okay, so that would be about the same process you're going to use for all of these. And what you'll notice is that each slide here, so remember each colored slide is a different day. So when you get to lessons 3, like this would be lesson 3, both orange. This would be lesson 4, they're both purple. Lesson 5 would be blue. But notice that we're in millimeters, meters. We just give a lot of practice, multiple days of practice converting. And then you're going to get to our customary yards, feet, miles. And then some of that will be mixed up here. Now your liters and kiloliters, you're doing liquid measurement. So let's go back and do one more round with that same flow. So I would say, boys and girls, 1 meter is equivalent to how many millimeters? Think about it. Class, and they would say 1,000 millimeters. So we can reread that comparison or that statement together. 1 meter equals 1,000 millimeters. Boys and girls, we have 80 meters and we want to know how many millimeters that is. Boys and girls, am I going from a large to a small unit or from a small unit to a large unit? Class, and they would say, we're going from a large unit to a small unit. Boys and girls, will I multiply then or divide? And then students should say, if I go from a large unit to a small unit, I am going to multiply. Class, how many millimeters are in 80 meters? Class, and they would say 80,000 millimeters. Okay, boys and girls, does our answer make sense? And then they need to talk about how they know it makes sense. It makes sense because the millimeters has a lot more than the meters. So the smaller the unit, the more we need. Let's try it again. Boys and girls, how many meters equals 1 centimeter? And then students should, you give wait time, you can follow all of these same prompts. Okay, so we're talking about how many equals that 1 centimeter. We're setting up our base. We talk about if we're going from a large to a small or a small to a large, would we be multiplying or dividing? And then of course you can have this conversation too. Could we divide or multiply? Have that conversation and then talk about whether or not this is reasonable and have students justify. So have fun.